YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with a new episode of Overreaction Monday, fresh out of the Sunday's games of Week 13 of the NFL. This is going to be a good one. You guys sent in some good statements, some good overreactions that are actually debatable, and I'm going to break them down. To get involved and to get more NFL content talk, follow that Twitter. It's a must follow. Link down below. It's also on your screen there. Constant NFL talk. So it's a must follow. It'll be worth it. We'll also appreciate you very much for that. Instagram, podcast, Patreon link for those down in the description. That Patreon has a bunch of extra bonus NFL content. Link down below. Please subscribe if you're new. Full NFL coverage, weekly picks, power rankings, score predictions, videos like this, off-season, full draft, and free agency coverage. So we got you covered. So go ahead and subscribe. Be much appreciated. Check out that Sided app. You see below me, there's a link down below for that as well. You debate football, earn points, and win Amazon gift cards. It's pretty cool. Check it out. Overreaction Monday. Let's do it. I like the ones you guys sent in. These are good. We can debate in the comments as well. All these are very debatable. That's why I like them. So first one from Sup, Joe Judge. Should be a candidate for Coach of the Year. I see this floating around quite a bit. Fresh off a statement, big win against the Seahawks. He's got, it feels like a pretty, it feels like a football team. They're playing together. It's a very solid team, and they're better than I think their record shows. They're better than what people give them credit for. They're in charge. They're in front of the NFC East right now. So that's kind of the impressive thing. He's an impressive coach. I think they're going the right direction. To me, though, I think this is still an overreaction. I think a lot of people are talking like he should. I guess he should be brought up a little bit for how well he's doing. He's doing a good job. I think he's the guy. I think he's the future, leader of that team. He's doing a heck of a job. The Giants really aren't supposed to be, anything special this year. Maybe their record still isn't that great, but maybe they're a little better than expected. They do have some injuries as well, but a lot of teams do. But the reason I say overreaction, maybe why we're getting a little too ahead of ourselves here with this one, is because there's been so many close games the Giants lost. And usually when you can't close out those close games, they got one against Seattle, the coach always has to take a blame for that. I know maybe Daniel Jones turnover or whatever it may be, or it was in the past. They got to close out those games. And I'm confident they will in the future, or maybe even this near future, maybe even this year. But I think some of those games, on the resume kind of hurts his chance a little bit. It'd be one thing if he's dominating the NFC East. The record's fantastic. They are heading in the right direction, like I said. But I think it's a little bit of an overreaction to be saying this right now. But I'm a believer. He's doing a heck of a job. And he deserves credit. Definitely deserves credit. I just think for Coach of the Year, I think we pump the brakes a little bit. Just a little bit here. Next one, we're sticking on the Giants train. From Danny, Giants can win a playoff game right off the bat. This is overlooked. I think people are just letting this kind of go right by them, not even thinking about it enough, Just thinking the Giants, they're maybe the favorites to win the NFC East, which would put them at the 4 seed. Most people probably say, I expect them in there. Maybe some people say Washington. Maybe some people think the Eagles are going to turn around now. That's all fine. I think my point is most people think Giants, but they think once they get into the playoffs, look at all these other NFC teams, they're just not going to win anything. They're not going anywhere. I think that's kind of the label the NFC East gets. They kind of just let that blow right by them, don't even think about it a little bit. It's overlooked because I think they actually can win a playoff game. I think people aren't thinking enough about this. It depends on who they play. It depends on who everyone plays in the NFC, especially. But they can match it with the Bucks. A team like the Bucks, they had beat really. Now, would the game be the same thing the next time they play them? Could be, might not be. They can beat them. They play tough football. They play very well on defense. It's a matter of just taking care of the ball and executing on offense. I think there's teams they can beat more than just the Bucks. That was just an example, but I think people are kind of really just I think that's the mistake people make. They think about the teams that are supposed to be in the playoffs, and there's this team's hot right now. This team's the best, so that's the favorite. I think you really got to look into the matchups a little more. I think that's where people make mistakes. So the Giants, believe it or not, can win a playoff game. So that's something. That's something to look out for. Amon Khan, Giants are Super Bowl contenders. All right. Okay. Now, if you think this, I don't think he necessarily thinks this. I think if people just think this, you're getting a little wild. They're too new. They turn the ball over a bit. There's really defense is great. There's something elite about them. They can't win the Super Bowl. So I think we all know that. So now we're gonna step off the Giants train a little bit here. From E, the Broncos are a draft away from being legit contenders. I guess it depends on what you mean by contenders. If we're talking playoff contenders, fact. I think it's fact. I think they're kind of just getting healthier. They're healthier away from maybe Drew Lock's holding them back a little bit. But I think if you're talking Super Bowl contender, it's definitely overreaction. It might be more than a draft away. They don't have that many needs, but is Drew Lock the answer to make them more of a playoff contender? I don't think so. He has the talent in him. We know that. I think that's where people kind of get caught up in Drew Lock, because he has these flashy plays, these moments, but can he stay consistent? Can he improve? He has potential, but can he improve? Everyone says this guy has potential. This guy has potential. That doesn't mean they're going to be great. They can be. He's got talent in him, like I've been saying. But so many people forget, too, the quarterbacks really don't change a whole bunch. Look at all the quarterbacks. I think maybe the only one, Peyton Manning, threw a lot of interceptions early in his career. That was a rare occasion. Some people will say Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill is the same talent he was when he was in Miami. Same talent, just less injuries and no Adam Gase. It's the same talent. Like, he didn't all of a sudden develop like a bunch of traits. Like, it doesn't happen. Drew Lock has it in him, but just too inconsistent. So I think that's what maybe they're a quarterback away from being legit. Maybe Super Bowl contenders. Only a handful of teams like win the Super Bowl, but it's easier said than done. It might take more than one offseason, one or more drafts. So I'd say that's an overreaction if you're talking Super Bowl contenders. Playoff contenders, of course. I think if they're just healthier, they could possibly be in the playoffs. I picked them to go to the playoffs this year. I thought Drew Lock would be a little better, but I didn't think they'd be this beat up either. But offense line's improving. A lot of young guys improving. Defense is good. So it's a team it's definitely an interesting team in the future here. Next, from Vedant Trivedi. Apologize if I pronounced that wrong. The Lions should keep Darrell Bevell as their head coach for the future. I see a couple people talking about Darrell Bevell. It's kind of a hot topic after they just won against the Bears. They put up 34 points, a wild win against the Bears. And I think this is definitely an overreaction. He very well could get the job. Teams kind of get attached to their current guys. They have to like Bevell. They make him the interim coach. And I don't think they should. And I also think it's kind of an overreaction to think that off one game. Remember, Darrell Bevell was calling plays all along, not just against the Bears. Now he doesn't have Patricia kind of leading the way. He can kind of coach, his philosophy, his ways. He can lead his way. Maybe there's a little more motivation. Maybe it's not like purposely done. Like, he's obviously trying to coach well from the start of the year as an offensive coordinator. When you're the head coach, when you're in charge, maybe there's a little more motivation. Maybe a little more confidence in yourself. That could be. So now we're getting the full Darrell Bevell. It was a very well coached game offensively. It did feel like they missed Patricia a little bit defensively, but overall, it's an offensive league. They won. They're better. Without Patricia, it had to be done. I think I don't think they should. I don't think they should. But mainly the point here is it's an overreaction to think they should based off one game. Because remember, Darrell Bevell was calling plays the whole time. Lions are in a tough spot. It actually starts with Matthew Stafford. Because Stafford's been disappointing at times. Yes, he could have more help. He definitely could be better with more help. Better coaching as well. As we see in this game, 400 whatever yards. That play, I can't get over that play to Cephas. That was a ridiculous play. That bomb. But sometimes he lets us down. You just need to get the full Stafford out at all times there. So it kind of starts with him. But my point is, it's going to be an interesting team in the offseason. Where do they go? I don't think they really want to go full rebuild because they have Matthew Stafford. But it's tough situation. But it's definitely an overreaction to think Bevell's kind of the guy now after that. Can't forget he's been calling plays all year. Next, we got from Raider Nation, Justin Jefferson is the clear favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So we were past most of Week 13, Sunday's action at least, and I think this is a fact right now. I'm not saying fact he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's the clear favorite through 13 weeks for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So I think it's fact. Justin, it was pretty much the last couple weeks. Or a couple weeks ago, it was just the two Justins, Justin Herbert, Justin Jefferson. Justin Herbert's kind of starting to go down a little bit. Some defenses are able to game plan against him. He's making some mistakes. It's okay. He's a rookie. He's shown enough for us to believe in him, rightfully so. But he's been playing kind of on the bad side, but it's okay. But Justin Jefferson continues to play well. It's that receiver. You can just see in his game, wherever he lines up, whatever type of route he runs with his footwork. I mean, it's ridiculous. His hands, he can go up and catch the ball, run after the catch. You can see he'd be this good on any team. It doesn't matter if he has Adam Thielen next to him. He would be this good on pretty much every team there. And that's kind of what stands out to me. That's what's kind of clear. And he's been dominant. He's putting up, I guess, historic numbers here, in rare company with other receivers there in NFL history. So he's doing some crazy things. Right now he has got to be the rookie deal. We'll see what a guy like Chase Claypool does later today, actually. Monday Night Football. We'll be covering that, of course, on Twitter, so make sure you follow that. But that guy can sneak up as well. Big fan of his. But Justin Jefferson, clear favorite right now. That's a fact. Buckeye Brown 0-3. Browns keep Mayfield and compete for a Super Bowl within the next 5 years. It's kind of weird that you put kind of keep Mayfield. Of course they're going to keep Mayfield. I know some people kind of get on him. Browns fans have their doubts at times. Some people out there have their doubts at times, I've noticed. Of course they're going to keep him. But the key part here is compete for a Super Bowl within the next 5 years. I think this is interesting because I think people will disagree with me, but I'm pretty firm on this. I think fact. I think next 5 years, this team is going to compete for. No, I'm not saying they're going to, I guess, define what that means, I suppose. But I'm not saying they're going to go out there and win a Super Bowl. There's some other really good AFC teams. You know who they are. They have to get through. And they got to win the Super Bowl too. But they're going to compete for a Super Bowl. They're going to have shots. They have the formula to beat good teams. They do. They saw it against the Titans. It's just one game, but we saw it there. And that is, pounding the football to open up the pass, wearing teams out to open up everything pretty much offensively, and that by default that controls the time of possession. That's the ultimate goal for teams. It's really hard to do. Sometimes I think teams kind of go for it a little too much, but if you can do it and you can execute it, it's dominant. And you see why teams are pushing for that. The Browns have that recipe. They know how to do this, and they have the running game for it. They have the offensive line, man. That is one of the best offensive lines in football. I didn't think it was going to be that much improved. I knew it was going to be improved, but it's ridiculous right now. And Baker's better than people give him credit for. He's getting better. I think he fits this offense, which we haven't really seen Baker in kind of that play action, run first offense, but it works. It works. He's really good with the play action. Has enough athletic ability as well. I think he's a really good leader. But kind of going back into the point within the next 5 years, they've built this offense pretty damn well. The offensive line, finding a quarterback in the offensive line is the battle. It's most of the battle. They've got it, in my opinion. They got it. They have the running game, best duo in football. Receiver Jarvis Landry's great. Odell, they need healthy. They probably can. Donovan Peoples-Jones is starting to heat up. They probably can add another receiver, but that's kind of like a mid-round draft type of deal. They can find a good one. So they are in the perfect position to just draft defense. They got a playmaking defense already. There are some holes on it though, but if they can complete this defense next, then we're talking about one of the most complete teams in football. I know it's easier said than done. Can't just kind of snap your finger and it's done. But they're in a good position because the hard part's done, I think. So there's no reason they should not be competing for a Super Bowl in the next 5 years. So that's kind of why I think that's a fact there. Will they win it? That's a different conversation, I suppose. From Blocker 17, Bears need to completely clean house, not even an option anymore. Fire Pace, Nagy, Ted Phillips. It's kind of funny to see Ted Phillips in there. Pace is the GM, Nagy's the head coach, Ted Phillips is the president. I don't know about Ted Phillips. Is that McCaskey's job decision? Let's forget that part. I mean, I wouldn't be against it, or not demanding it either, though. Completely need to clean house. I think it's a fact at this point. I will say this though: is it completely Nagy's fault? The offense, for the most part, offense has struggled. They did score 30 points against the Lions. They did their part until the end. There was some mistakes. It's not completely Nagy's fault. It's like a whole thing. The talent isn't there. They need a better quarterback, that's for sure. Offense line's beat up. Running back's been picking it up. They've been picking it up. Montgomery's been picking it up. They could get better there, I guess is my point, but that's really not like the negative of the offense. My point is they need more in general. Nagy hasn't really been supplied with that more, I guess, and that's on Ryan Pace. We'll give it to him. But Nagy still hasn't executed games well. The play calling's pretty bad. He kind of outsmarts himself. Gets a little too fancy with the play calls. I mean, just in the Lions game, I don't like getting conservative, but there's kind of times where you almost have to. And I think too much trust maybe in Trubisky in the end. He gets that strip sack. When the running the ball works, Montgomery only has 17 carries for a 4.5 average, and Cordero Patterson's got well over 5 average off 10 carries. The Lions can't make the first tackle's a miss. They can't really tackle. You're running all over them. I think more rely on that than Trubisky, in that situation. So I do blame Nagy for that in that specific game. But, looking at the other games across the rest of the year, there's a lot of blame to Nagy. But the talent hasn't been there, and that kind of goes to Pace. I think Pace is number one that should be fired. I haven't been a fan of Pace for some time now. I think you win through the draft. I fully believe that. You build championship teams through the draft. He has not done that with misses on picks, but trading away picks. Little things, too, like trading a fourth-round pick trading a fourth-round pick for a fifth-round. They actually did that last year. They actually traded a division rival, the Vikings, a 2021 fourth-round pick for a fifth-round pick, just for a depth guy that's really not seeing the field, low chance to see the field. It's just little things like that add up. He constantly does them. That is just not cutting it. It's not cutting it. And missing on, talent, obviously. I think too much. I don't know if his philosophy is right. I do think you build a championship team through the draft. He hasn't really done that. He hasn't, got the offensive talent in an offensive league era. So I definitely think Pace needs to go. I think we've seen enough from him. So I think it's number one. But yeah, they need to clean house. I think a lot of players are losing motivation, and losing comes along with that. But you always it's one of those things where sometimes it might not be fair. Could be or could not be in this scenario, but you do blame the coach for that. Loss of motivation, loss of, I guess, energy, fire, to go out there and motivation to win games. So, yeah, I do think they need to clean house, but the talent offensively isn't there at the same time, so it's not fully Nagy's fault. So that's pretty interesting. Sticking on the Bears here from Nicholas. Bears should keep Trubisky, get a new coach, and draft O-line. He's not the whole problem, and we won't get a better QB. I think you kind of summed it up in that. He's not the whole problem, but he is part of the problem. So I think this is a weird one to answer, though. I do think it's an overreaction to the keep Trubisky part. We've seen enough of Trubisky to know he's not the guy. But also, I think I talked about this in the recap a little bit with a different, I think with the Broncos, with Drew Lock. Look at the era. It's not 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, where you can win. Quarterback was always very important, obviously, but you can win without having a great quarterback. You can win with defense. You can win with other things. Now, there's only a handful of quarterbacks that can win a Super Bowl, that actually can win in this era, in this offensive-driven, a quarterback-driven league. So you pretty much know anybody can look at a guy and say, can this guy win a Super Bowl? What's the ultimate goal for every team? Win a Super Bowl. So they definitely need to keep looking, but we've seen enough from Trubisky to know he's not the guy. Little things here and there that shouldn't be problems still, in year 4. He could have a more talented offense, just like Nagy could have a more talented offense. They could be better, but it's not really the answer here. Offensive line, I didn't ever really have a problem with the offensive line until it got beat up. Now that it's hurt, it's pretty bad. A couple years ago, they were playing very well. The year they made the playoffs, the offensive line was one of the better ones in football. Last year, they kind of dropped down quite a bit. This year didn't really start. It was around average, maybe a little bit above average until, everyone was getting hurt on and off the field like crazy. Then it ended up being, pretty bad. So, but they probably do need to look for offensive line in the future. But I think they need to look quarterback first. They got to be just open to taking the best available offensive player. Just the offense got to be better in general. But I think you kind of summarized it with he's not the whole problem, but he's part of it. He's definitely part of it. And won't get a better quarterback in the draft. I think that, it depends on where you're picking. I think there's a lot of possibilities to get better. There's a lot of possibilities. I even think, and I would hesitate to say usually right away, like rookie stepping on the field right away, that's tough, but I would still argue that you could get better. So I think that'd be an overreaction. Brady Hill, the Seahawks are Super Bowl pretenders and have shown that they don't have what it takes to compete with the other Super Bowl, with the actual Super Bowl contenders, I guess is what he's saying here. So this is a tough one fresh off that Giant. You don't want to overreact from one loss. And I'm not really doing that by saying that game it didn't really teach us. Maybe it taught some people, but it showed us kind of what some of us thought in the past. How will they be against these types of matchups? How will they be against a team that can slow down their offense? Because it's a very good offense, but you can slow it down if you got a pretty solid defense. Giants got a solid defense. Not really the best. Not really with those Super Bowl contenders, maybe. Saints, Rams, if you want to call them Super Bowl contender. Those teams. But yeah, and even though their defense is improving, pretty much almost anybody can still move the ball against them. Wayne Gallman moving the ball, Colt McCoy moving the ball against them to do enough. I know they held them to 17 points, but so do they have, I guess, the recipe or the formula for winning a Super Bowl? That's why this is tough, because if they see, like I mentioned, Saints, Rams. That's gonna be teams like that are gonna be tough matchups. I think from even the Bucs. I think those are tough matchups for them based on their team. If it was a completely unstoppable offense, we got a different situation. This is tough to answer though. I don't know how to answer this. I think it's fair if you think this, because they've proved you almost right in a way, but the second part. I think they could beat other Super Bowl contenders. If the NFC playoffs is going to be all about matchups, who you play. Like, I even have scenarios, the Bucs have been completely disappointing, but I even have scenarios where the Bucs could actually make it, because we see what matchups, even with those playoff teams, are really good for them. We see that are just disaster matchups. That's just one example. So you could actually get lucky and get the run where these are your good matchups. So like the Seahawks, if they avoid teams that we think are the bad matchups, they can beat those other teams for sure. We know they can. And they might be able to beat a team that's a bad matchup for them. That happens, especially when you got a guy like Russell Wilson. So it's a tough one to answer. Like, it's fair if you want to think this based on a game like the Giants, based on the matchup problems, which I named a few teams that have the similar matchup like a Giants team, and they're more talented than the Giants team. But at the same time, if you think they just don't, they don't have it, they can't compete with other contenders, Packers, whatever, those teams, I think that's wrong. I think they definitely can, and they can beat them at any given time. So it's it's fair thinking, but it's a little bit of an overreaction at the same time. It's a weird one, but it's interesting to think about, fresh off that loss. Brendan Scranton, the Seahawks offense line is still one of the worst in the league. I definitely think it's an overreaction, basing it off of, especially basing it off that Giants game. It's not good. It hasn't really been that good. I think there is an offense line problem around the NFL. If you watch every single team, there are offensive lines that are just worse, plain and simple. They allow pressure in every play. A lot of that pressure and a lot of those sacks or QB hits in that game against the Giants are on Russell Wilson. I watched those several times. A lot of those are on Russell Wilson. Sometimes there were some plays where the offensive linemen were getting torched by guys like Leonard Williams and company there. They were getting torched. So, they're not good. They're not good, but there was times where Russell Wilson had some time. It's really not the excuse right now, especially what the Seahawks have overcome it in the past. It could be better. You would love for it to be better. We talked about it with the Browns. It's hard to complete the offense line, which they've done. The Seahawks have failed to do, but it's not really you can't point the finger there. You can't point the finger there, and it's definitely not. It's not one of the worst. It's probably not too far off, but there are several teams that it's a disaster, an absolute disaster. And the main reason why those teams could struggle any given time, or are struggling consistently. So, yeah, I think it's an overreaction. Trevor Robinson, Jalen Hurts is the solution in Philadelphia. Another overreaction. I think he's better. I think he's the how do I put this? I think he's the way to go right now. I think it's the way they have to go right now. And that's not me saying Jalen Hurts is necessarily more talented or a better quarterback than Carson Wentz or the opposite, whatever. It's just what they have to do right now. He's kind of giving them life. It really can't hurt to go Hurts at this point. You're losing anyways. And just given the circumstances, this current situation, you pretty much have to give it a try. And you just drafted in the second round for a reason, right? So, but is he the solution? Is he going to fix Philadelphia? Is he going to fix the Eagles? I'd say it's an overreaction. He could be better option for sure right now, but I don't know if it's a solution. Offensive line's hurt. It's not playing well. The receivers are not playing well. Doug Peterson's a big problem right now with the game plan and play calling. Secondary could play better. I do love the defensive line. Secondary and linebacker unit could play better. But, it's not really the solution, but it's probably the right option. So I think that's two different things. Some people could get confused by that. It's a pretty good one, though. And DeQuanta Clark, Carson Wentz is done. So that's words from Max Kellerman. So we got the overreaction straight from somebody that's supposed to be credible's mouth there. So that's pretty good. That's an overreaction that he's done. I just mentioned Hurts should be the option right now, but does that necessarily mean I think he's better, more talented than Carson Wentz? No. I guess we don't know the answer to that, but if we get a new year and the offensive line's healthy and improved and the receivers are improved, if everything's perfect, Carson Wentz, and that's easier said than done, Carson Wentz probably will be the better quarterback. He's not done. You can't really say done either because I don't know. I guess I don't know what he means by done. For the rest of the year, maybe he's done for the rest of the year. But when I think if you say somebody's done, like I'm thinking they're done. They're done for good. So I think it's an overreaction either way. I also could see if we want to stick on just this year, if he's just talking about this year, I can see them putting him back in at times. If they somehow make the playoffs, I could see him starting in the playoffs round one. And it would look really bad if Hurts got him the playoffs, but I also, depends on the situation, but I also might not be that much against it. It probably will be, but just kind of I guess the game plan factor, trying to throw teams off a little bit. So if we're talking this year, even this year, but I think he means in general, you definitely can't say he's done. So that'd be definitely a bit of an overreaction. But that's going to wrap it up for Overreaction Monday. That was a good episode. Thanks, everyone, for sending in their good takes here through our Twitter. Make sure you follow that. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, turn notifications on. Much, much appreciated. We're back every Monday with this video. We got full coverage on every single game all year long. Plenty of content. And then even in the offseason, we got you covered fully. So you're going to want to subscribe. Be much appreciated. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.